on position.
And we have done
I
that.
think-
We've done it in past years. We've
and
made change.
And I won't have any qualms with doing that, whatever it's,
Yeah.
Hillview or one other position. No issue with that whatsoever, because that shouldn't happen. I agree with you.
I agree with you too.
So anyway, I would, once again, ask consideration board members to allow me to continue to serve as liaison from this board to the Hillview Commission. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm sorry. Well, maybe I didn't understand.
You just voted
Yeah, I
as
appreciate
motion.
that.
Oh, sorry. No. I take it back. I thought it
take
was
it
to
back.
keep, I misunderstood. Go on. It's been so long since you made the motion, so I withdraw my vote. Just please
I'm gonna
repeat
ask
the
for
motion.
vote. I'm gonna ask for the vote again.
Yes.
Next year. All in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No.
No,
Motion fails 3-2.
thank you. Sorry about that.
Moving on, item 11, Town Administrator's Performance Evaluation. For the public's information, on an annual basis, the board reviews the town administrator's performance. How the process starts is the chair distributes to each board member essentially a review questionnaire, lack of a better term. In that particular review form, there are 5 separate categories in which the town administrator is reviewed in. They are relationship with the Board of Selectmen, fiscal management, community and public relations, personnel administration, professional skills and abilities. Those are the 5 categories, and within those 5 categories, there's a subset of particular questions under each category. The town administrator the board members are asked to give a number between 1 and 5, 1 being unsatisfactory to 5 outstanding on each one of those questions that's posed underneath the categories. From there, that goes out early April. The chair asks for the board members to submit their responses to the chair by late April. The chair, it's a tremendous task of the chair, and not looking forward to next year, I suppose, as Mr. Messeri has done it the last 7 years. He then compiles the individual tallies from each board member, and each board member does it independent of one another. They get submitted to the chair independently. The chair then compiles not only the scores from each board member, but also comments. Part of the instruction packet is if you score the town administrator a 1 unsatisfactory, you must give a comment as to why you scored a 1. If you scored him a 5, which is outstanding, you also comment under the 5s. From there, the chair compiles it, gets a composite score. The chair and vice chair, typically late April, early May, meet with the town administrator and essentially give him his review. The town administrator is then allowed to respond. The town administrator is provided the board's review in advance. Town administrator provides his review of himself, and it brings us to today. What I can tell you is that the composite score for the town administrator is either outstanding, commendable, satisfactory, or needs improvement. This past year, the combined score for Mr. Valiakonis put him in the high end of the satisfactory category. I won't go into all the details of all the positives and some of the negatives, but I can tell you that on the positive side, Mr. Mr. Valiakonis scored very high in the areas of bringing forward a balanced budget on an annual basis. This past year, the efforts he went through in hiring not 1, 2, but 3 department heads, the fact that he was instrumental in making sure that we were able to come to an agreement with the, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but 7 employee unions on the town side. Through his efforts, we were able to close out all those negotiations and come to agreements with each group. And also, he was instrumental in saving the town money in terms of health insurance with his recommendation and his advice to us of bringing in a consultant of health insurance So those are the areas I'd like to highlight in terms of what I see was his strengths over the last year. In terms of the stuff that nobody really wants to talk about is on the negative side, which was discussed with Mr. Valiakotis, in terms of areas he needs improvement on. He needs improvement on delegating responsibilities to his department heads, who then can take those tasks and delegate it to their direct reports. It's a view of the board that takes on much more responsibility for himself and doesn't delegate it, which turns into a problem for the board. Other than that, in terms of his communication directly with the board and with the general public, he needs improvement on that area. And we wish to see that he, in meetings such as this, that he be more vocal in giving us his opinion or his advice. But bottom line, in terms of his performance, like I said, came out on the high end of the satisfactory category. If any other board members would wish to comment on that?
Well, thank you very much for his service, and I think he's done a good job.
I'm going to say this, not only a good job, but something that he'll get reviewed on next year, which already gives him an outstanding in my mind, was what happened at town meeting and how he and our finance director were able to, with a snap of a finger, when we didn't reach a quorum, and it caused us issues in how we were going to get to a balanced budget for FY13, he was, within moments of realizing that we didn't have a quorum, was able to sit with the finance director, pull his pencil out, and get us to a point where we were able to leave town meeting with a balanced budget, even though it was about 100 people chose to show up and we need 150 for the quorum. So it was just amazing to me to see him go through that exercise under that time crunch and come out with a balanced budget when we have a budget of $55 million. So I commend him on that, and that's the effort he puts in. So. Anything else? Okay. Item 12.
I gotta make a motion on that, Mr.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the performance evaluation of the town administrator dated May 3rd, 2012.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 12, adopt water regulations for FY 12 review, is that accurate? Or is that for, should that be FY 13?
I'm not sure what the, FY 12 review came. I was looking at the agenda, scratching my head. Thinking that thing must have just got dropped in there by a grumble.
Water regulation.
It's,
Adopt water regulations.
regulations that were discussed at the board's first meeting in May, before we got into the swing of town meeting. As you know, Mr. Carnevale was before the board, and the board had raised some questions relative to some of the provisions in the regulations. One of them dealing with the fee for the sprinkler system, and the second one dealing with some signage requirements. And the regulations have been updated for the board's review in accordance with your comments. And I would ask for you to so approve. It's not a policy per se, so it doesn't require first or second reading, but it is a regulation similar to your solid waste regulations and fees, and we'll post it on the town's website once it's been adopted by the board.
Any discussion, board members? Dick, would you mind, just, if no one has any comments, just get up, and if you could, this is more for general public, just go over the highlights of this water regulation.
The changes to it, basically.
The changes are after the water issues we had in 2010. We discussed with the TA and the board, we went to town meeting and changed the existing water restrictions. It was very limited what we can do to something more broad that would give me the ability to draft some regulations that's a little more technically current and give us more flexibility. So that was done in the fall of 2010. And then this regulation basically incorporates a survey of about 15 communities, how they've done it and how they've been successful in water conservation efforts. And so it gives a table that says in normal conditions do A, if we have a high water demand, we go to watering, say, only 2 days a week versus 1 day a week. So it's a tiered type approach. that says in this condition, this is the recommendation. The power rests with the Board of Selectmen. So between myself and the TA would make a recommendation as to what actions we should take. As Greg said, the two issues about the fee, with review, I talked to, Mark and I talked to the Park Department. They have a web-based Google form application they use for people to sign up for things. So I was thinking to have people to register their wells would be a cumbersome process. It's actually a very simple process. And since that time, I've discovered the health department has a list of people that have wells for running their drinking system and their irrigation systems. Just roughly about 12% of the town's homes have either a well for 100% drinking water or for irrigation. Some have both for some reason.
Do you know how up to date is that, Dick? Is that pretty current? Or?
Mark said there are some glitches in it. It's a relative thing. I think as part of the registration process, we'll flesh out which is accurate and not accurate. I think when you have a well put in, you have to go to the health department and, I think, register it and do a water quality
To
test.
pull a permit too,
Permit.
to put it in.
So, I don't think that, historically, it's been used for the purpose we're talking about, so it's probably 90%.
But that's a lot higher than I would have guessed.
Yeah, it was surprising when I added it up. It was pretty long.
But you had a lot of them last year, too.
Well, you hear more and more people talking about putting them in.
Can I just mention one thing?
Sure.
A few weeks ago, I went over to purchase one of the signs, private well signs, and my well is about 13, 14 years old, and it was in the system. So, I mean, I thought that was pretty good. I didn't expect it to be in there, but it was in there, listed as a well for irrigation only.
And the second thing that was an issue was the cost of the sign, so I modified the language, basically selling that cost. And I think we're selling right now at $16 a piece, what it cost us to make them. Those are the two issues, the comments the board had. To complement this, we're developing what we call a drought management plan, whereas the table for the regulations have stage 1 through 4. This is actually the triggers, data we monitor, what triggers going from one step to that recommendation. And currently it's going to be Andover, since we get 2/3 of our water from Andover. Our water tank levels, that was an issue a couple years ago, the droppage of the water tanks, our actual water demand when it ramps up. There's a state indices, and Mark and I have discussed adding one more thing is obviously weather and precipitation, our thing to monitor, and there's a gauge at the Ipswich River where our water is not directly, it comes from the Ipswich River Basin, but a drought doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's a good 24/7 tool we can look at on a website. It tells us what the river flows are, so we're adding those two as well. And other than that, it's as I originally submitted.
Mr. Vogt, to take a, excuse me, are you still requesting that, whether you use town water for irrigation or not, well water, that they still have rain gauges on both of them?
The rain gauge actually in the previous ordinance, the previous bylaw, that was in there. I'm not adding anything that wasn't already in there. And I think everybody, I emailed that to everybody, I think on May 10th. But I have copies if anybody'd like to see it.
Thanks.
Just for everybody's record, rain gauges. This is the one at the library. Little device that's about 2 inches max. Something very small like that. Basically, it's a cup, 2 wires, fills up with water, it's got a hole in the bottom with the water out. When it fills up with water, it connects the circuit, which turns off your sprinkler system. So it's something as simple as this. And they're roughly $50 installed, I've been told.
It was previously,
Yeah, mine's sitting on my cellar floor, so it's all connected.
Hopefully it's not on the roof.
it was previously part of the regulation for wells, as well as.
Yes.
No, just irrigation systems.
Irrigation, but it just doesn't matter. whether
Doesn't
it's
matter,
well
private
water or,
right.
okay.
Right, irrespective of the source.
Okay, anything further? You have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the new water regulations entitled Restrictions on Water Use as proposed by the Department of Public Works.
Second? Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 14, Town Administrator's Report. Oh, no, did I miss it?
Town
No.
meeting, special town
Oh.
elections.
Yeah, I don't want to delay anyone on the special town, annual town meeting. It would not be a good sign considering there are a couple of members of the finance committee that are in attendance this evening.
Skipped right over it, that was my error. See? Oh, there.